back to another edition of the Zizek Times. Today, we're diving into some truly mind-bending ideas, exploring how paradoxes and philosophical concepts help us understand the wild world of modern communication and politics.
Oh, Alex, I'm practically vibrating with excitement. It's like we're putting on our truth detective hats, but instead of looking for facts, we're looking at how people talk about facts, or don't talk about them.
Our discussion today is based on Slavoj Žižek's new blog post titled, "Welcome to the Civilization of the Liar's Paradox."
Yes, I can see it has been published on his Substack on 19th April 2025.
Exactly. And where better to start than with a classic head-scratcher, the liar's paradox. You know, statements like, "Everything I am saying is false." It's been debated forever, from ancient Greece to India and 20th century philosophy.
Ugh, my brain already hurts. Because if everything I am saying is false is true, then it must be false because it says everything is false. And if it's false, then it must be true because not everything I'm saying is false. Specifically, this statement would be true. It's a total verbal pretzel.
Right? It ties itself in knots. But Slavoj Žižek introduces a fascinating way out, drawing on Jacques Lacan, the distinction between the enunciated content of a statement and the subjective stance implied by the enunciation.
Ooh, fancy words. So the enunciated content is just what the words literally say, like the sky is blue?
Precisely. And the subjective stance is what saying those words reveals or implies about the person speaking, regardless of the literal truth of the words.
Got it. So if someone says, "I'm the greatest athlete of all time," the enunciated content is a statement about athletic ability. But the subjective stance could be arrogance, insecurity, or maybe just trying to hype themselves up.
That's the idea. Now apply this back to "everything I am saying is false." The enunciated content is clearly paradoxical. But Slavoj Žižek suggests that the statement itself can be true or false depending on the level you analyze it.
Wait, how? Isn't it always false if it's true and true if it's false?
At the level of enunciated content, yes, it's paradoxical. But consider the subjective stance. The statement, "I am always lying," can actually correctly render the subjective experience of my entire existence as inauthentic, as a fake. So subjectively, it's true for that person, even if literally false, because they aren't literally lying every single second.
Whoa, so subjective truth can be like an emotional or existential truth, even if it's not a factual truth.
Exactly. And the opposite also holds. The statement, "I know I am a piece of shit." The enunciated content might be literally true for some people, sadly. But the act of saying it, the enunciation, can imply a different subjective stance. By admitting it, you're somehow showing you're not fully a piece of shit, that you are honest about yourself.
Oh, I see. Like, look how self-aware and brave I am for admitting this terrible thing about myself. It's a way to appear better than the literal words you're saying. It's like saying, "I'm the worst singer ever," while secretly hoping someone says, "No, you're not."
Precisely. Slavoj Žižek even has a great paraphrase of Groucho Marx for this. "You act like a piece of shit and admit that you are a piece of shit, but this will not deceive us. You are a piece of shit." The confession doesn't necessarily change the underlying reality or the subjective stance being feigned.
Haha, that's brutally accurate. So this isn't just about philosophical riddles. The source says this distinction between enunciated and enunciation is crucial for understanding today's political discourse in our post-truth era.
Absolutely. The example given is fascinating. After Trump was re-elected in 2024,
Wait, 2024? The source predicts? That's spicy.
it does seem to be based on a hypothetical future event. Anyway, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez supposedly asked her voters who also voted for Trump why they made such an inconsistent choice. The predominant reason was that, despite inconsistencies or outright lying in the enunciated content, Trump appeared more sincere than others.
This is where it gets really wild. His partisans take even his lies as proof that he acts like a normal human being who speaks his mind.
Yes, the very inconsistencies and lies function as a sign that, at the level of enunciation, Trump speaks as an authentic and sincere human being. It's a perfect example of how the implied position of enunciation can also be a fake. He projects authenticity through his willingness to be blunt or even wrong.
So the lie in the content becomes proof of truth in the delivery? That's perverse. It's like a sincerity paradox.
It is. And Slavoj Žižek relates this back to the subjective truth versus factual truth opposition, using the analogy of hysteria and obsessional neurosis.
Okay, hit me with the psychoanalysis.
So subjective truth is like hysteria, a truth in the guise of a lie. What's said is literally not true, but the lie expresses an authentic complaint in a false form, like someone saying I'm fine while clearly not, expressing a truth about their suffering through the lie of their words.
Got it. And factual truth is like obsessional neurosis, a lie in the guise of truth. What's claimed is literally true, but it serves a lie.
Exactly, and Slavoj Žižek argues that both populists and PC, or what the liberal leftist political correctness tactics, use these two complementary forms of lying.
So it's not just one side playing games with truth?
Not according to Slavoj Žižek. They both resort to factual lies when these lies serve what's perceived as a higher truth of their cause, like lying for Jesus to prevent abortion with false data, or anti-immigrant populists circulating unverified crime rumors to support their view that refugees are a threat.
Yeah, we see that everywhere. Just throw enough mud, and some will stick, justifying the higher truth you already believe.
And PC liberals do similar things. An example can be like ignoring or downplaying data about actual differences or issues, like the Rotherham scandal where authorities ignored systemic rape by a gang of youths to avoid triggering Islamophobia. They pass over actual differences in silence, because mentioning them might promote something like Eurocentrism.
So the higher truth for them is preventing something like Islamophobia, even if it means ignoring factual truth about a horrific crime. That's chilling.
It is. And then there's the opposite strategy, the lying in the guise of truth.
Using facts to tell a lie. That sounds even sneakier.
It is. Slavoj Žižek says anti-immigrant populists use bits of factual truth to add an aura of veracity to their racist lie. And PC partisans quote crucial facts, but often give them a wrong twist.
How does the PC left use true facts to serve a lie?
Slavoj Žižek argues that PC left uses its true points like detecting sexism or racism in language to reassert its moral superiority and thus prevent true social economic change. The populist protest displaces frustration onto an external enemy, while the PC left uses its truth claims for moral posturing that avoids deeper structural issues.
Wow. So calling out factual instances of sexism or racism, while factually true, can serve the lie that simply changing language or attitudes is enough, distracting from economic inequality or other big problems. That's a punchy analysis.
It is. He then makes an intriguing point about alternate facts and history. It argues that the populist right is often more brutally historicist relativist than the left, even while condemning relativism.
How can the right be relativist? They seem pretty convinced of their own version of truth.
Because the correct stance isn't simply sticking to factual truth. Data is vast and impenetrable, and we always approach it from a certain perspective, or horizon of understanding, selecting some data and omitting others. Our histories are stories, combinations of selected data into consistent narratives, not photographic reproductions of reality.
Like how you can tell the history of a country focusing on politics, economics, or popular misery. All can be factually accurate, but they aren't true in the same emphatic sense.
Exactly. And the most efficient lies are lies with truth, lies that reproduce only factual data. Slavoj Žižek gives a chilling example. An anti-Semitic historian could write a factually accurate account of Jewish people's numerical dominance in certain professions in 1920s Germany. All true data, but clearly serving a lie.
That's terrifying. Just stacking facts can be a powerful way to build a false narrative.
Yes. And he argues that while human history is always told from an interested standpoint, some are more truthful than others. An engaged standpoint, like telling the story of Nazi Germany from the victim's perspective out of an interest in universal human emancipation, is imminently more true because it better describes the social dynamics. There's no truly neutral report.
So, truth isn't just about factual accuracy, it's also about the perspective, the interests, and whether that perspective reveals or obscures the reality of the social totality. It reminds me of Habermas's knowledge and human interests, which the source mentions is relevant today.
Very much so. Shifting gears slightly, Slavoj Žižek introduces another fascinating concept, interpassivity, from Robert Fowler.
Interpassivity sounds like the opposite of being active?
Sort of, but more complex. It's the opposite of Hegel's cunning of reason, where you are active through the other. Like a machine or water doing the work fluidity, you are passive through the other. You concede the passive aspect of enjoying your experience to the other, while you remain actively engaged.
Whoa, give me an example. My brain is doing backflips.
He gives us examples. You can continue working in the evening while the VCR passively enjoys the movie for you. Or you can manage the financial arrangements for someone deceased while weepers mourn for you. You're doing the work, but outsourcing the feeling or experience.
Okay, that's bizarrely relatable. Like scrolling through Instagram, seeing amazing travel photos, and feeling like you've experienced something, even though you're just sitting on your couch. You're passively traveling through the other person's activity.
It's that kind of dynamic. And this connects to another crucial idea, false activity. People don't just act to change things. They can act in order to prevent something from happening, so that nothing will change.
Ah, the classic running in place scenario.
Yes. This is the typical strategy of the obsessional neurotic, frantically active in order to prevent the real thing from happening, like someone talking incessantly in a group to avoid awkward silence and confrontation, or a patient overflowing the analyst with details to avoid the crucial question. They are active to keep the other immobile.
So sometimes, being busy is just a way to avoid dealing with what really matters. That hits close to home.
Slavoj Žižek applies this to politics too. Much of today's progressive politics isn't suffering from passivity, but pseudo-activity. The urge to be active, to participate, intervening all the time, engaging in meaningless debates.
Guilty as charged. It feels like you have to do something, anything, even if it's not effective.
Exactly. He says those in power often prefer even critical participation to silence, just to keep us engaged and break our ominous passivity. The endless talk about action often betrays the subjective stance of not doing anything. We talk endlessly about the ecological catastrophe, but do less.
It's like interpassivity applied politically. We outsource the doing to the constant discussion and activity, so we don't have to face the difficult, real actions needed.
That's a powerful connection. Slavoj Žižek argues that against this interpassive mode, the first truly critical step is to withdraw into passivity and refuse to participate. This withdrawal clears the ground for true activity.
Wow, that's radical. Stop the noise, step back, then figure out what effective action looks like. It's counterintuitive, but makes sense. Stop running in place.
He also gives other interesting examples of manipulating truth and appearance, like apologizing. A sincere apology offered, then declared unnecessary, can save a friendship. The apology succeeds by being proclaimed superfluous, or a quick, insincere "I'm sorry" to shut someone up, which avoids a real apology.
Oh yeah, the classic sorry not sorry maneuver.
And the Chinese Communist Party example. They admit some past errors and excesses like the Great Leap Forward, but neutralize the impact. Mao is still celebrated despite being assessed as 30% bad. It's fetishistic disavowal. You know the horrible truth, but act as if it doesn't taint the symbol. They admit horrible things, but prohibit subjective reactions like horror. Millions dead become a neutral fact.
That's chilling. And the source suggests reporting on destruction in Gaza might use similar neutralization, just presenting facts without the emotional weight or moral context.
Precisely. And rumors? They suspend factual truth but retain symbolic efficiency, and we enjoy them. I don't know if it's true, but this is what I heard. It's not disavowal. I know it's not true, but more like, I can't say I believe it's true, but here's what I know. Rumors can uphold power or trigger revolution.
Rumors feel so central to the post-truth vibe. It's not about verification, it's about circulation and impact.
Which brings us to the idea that many people call the death of truth. The source argues this characterization is wrong.
Wrong, but it feels like truth is under attack everywhere.
Slavoj Žižek says those who use the term imply truth used to prevail, but that wasn't the case. Many human rights violations and catastrophes were invisible in the past. The difference wasn't more truth, but stronger ideological hegemony. Instead of today's greater melee of local truths, one truth, or rather, one big lie prevailed. In the West, it was the liberal democratic truth.
So what we're seeing now isn't the death of truth itself, but the disintegration of the big lie that used to hold society together.
Exactly. The populist wave unsettled the establishment, and its ideological foundation is falling apart. The reason is the establishment's failure to maintain hegemony.
Wow. So those bemoaning the death of truth are really just deploring the loss of the one big story, the ideological stability that gave everyone a cognitive mapping. They miss the safe situation where one big lie provided the truth.
And Slavoj Žižek argues that precisely those who deplore the death of truth are the true and most radical agents of this death. Their motto is better injustice than disorder, or better one big lie than the reality of a mixture of lies and truths.
Mind blown. So the collapse of the information ecosystem isn't just fake news, it's the big lie disintegrating.
Precisely. And this death of truth, the death of the big lie, opens the possibility for a new authentic truth, or for an even worse big lie. Slavoj Žižek suggests this is what we see with the retreat of liberal democracy and the rise of new forms of authoritarianism.
What a roller coaster. From ancient paradoxes to Lacan, political spin, pseudo-activity, and the collapse of the big lie. It really makes you think about what we mean by truth and lies today.
It certainly does. Understanding these concepts from the sources, the difference between enunciated and enunciation, subjective versus factual truth, the strategies of lying, pseudo-activity, and the nature of the so-called death of truth, provides a powerful lens to view our current predicament.
Absolutely. It's not just about what is true, but how truth and lies function in our social and political lives. Thanks, Alex. That was incredibly insightful.
My pleasure, Ben, and thank you to our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time with more explorations of complex ideas.
Stay critical, stay curious, or maybe withdraw into passivity? Just kidding, mostly.